Darragh,
Liam,
how's things, mate?
not too bad, especially since I'm out here. Loving life the last few weeks, to be honest.
How long have you been out now? In Bali?
Uh, Nearly 2 weeks actually. No, sorry, I was in Dubai first. Went to Uluwatu. Yeah, I probably landed. Yeah, it's probably 2 weeks now. I was in Uluwatu for a week. Came to Canggu last Thursday. I actually just put up my story yesterday about how the last week has felt like a month.
Yeah.
The amount you can get done here, like the
Yeah,
productivity
big time.
levels compared to home is it's just night and day, to be honest. Like, so yeah, enjoying it. How's you?
I'm back just over 2 weeks as well, man. It's good to be
Yeah.
back.
You
It's
love
just
it out
different
here.
out here. Yeah, so I was here for 9 months, probably last year, and then I was home for obviously the summer, played a bit of football, and then spent a month in Thailand in September there, and then came back out. But yeah, just I was itching to get back. See, it's just for training, for business here, it's just different. You know, the gyms are quality. There's good food everywhere you look. Everyone's training. Everyone's grinding. And yeah, it's just a good place to be at the minute. And yeah, obviously the weather's nice as well, which is a bonus.
How do you? I know you've been around different parts. Like you've obviously been in Vietnam, Thailand. What do you think? Like Bali's the spot when it comes to combining work, training, food, just weather.
Yeah, man. So in comparison to Thailand, I feel like it was more chilled there, more holiday vibes. Whereas here, you know, there's a lot more people that are doing similar things. You know, there's people that are doing online fitness coaching. There's people that are doing mindset coaching, and you know everything else in between. So there's a lot of people in the similar area. So then that obviously helps.
Yeah.
You know, when other people are pushing hard, it sort of drives you on. But yeah, the gyms here are sick. I feel like probably some of the best gyms I've trained in. You know, I've been in different places. I was in Marbella for a couple of months last year, lived there, and they have some amazing gyms. But yeah, it's just different here, you know, and there's new gyms popping up everywhere as well because there's more and more tourists coming. There's more and more people that are into their fitness, you know. It's probably one of the sort of best places to be with regards to health and wellness, you know, and you know yourself, you're big into that, and that's one of the reasons why you're loving it, isn't it?
Yeah, like 100%. I've never seen anything like it in all my life. Like I was in Vietnam obviously over the summer, and although I enjoyed that big time, it just wasn't on the same level when it comes to, as you say, health and fitness. So I knew there was certain parts of the world where you could go and you could live a great lifestyle, but obviously cost of living and stuff in certain parts of the world is high. But I also just don't think there's anywhere on a level in terms of health. Like I just don't. Like even in Australia, like there's a culture in Australia of going out and partying as well. You're gonna have to pay that off most weekends if you're out there.
Yep.
When you're back home in Ireland, you know, weather's pretty poor. Not as much of a focus on like good nutrition. Training is, I suppose, a decent enough focus back home, but when it comes, as I say, combining the whole lot together, like every morning you wake up here at 6 o'clock and the sun's splitting the stones.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about rainy season's going to be coming
Yeah, well,
upon us soon, so yeah, it's a different lifestyle out here.
Huberman would be proud waking up to the sun every morning, light in the eyes.
Fact.
Yeah, it's just a nice start to the day, man. Although, yeah, rainy season is coming, and I was here last year for the rainy season, and yeah, it's still completely fine. You know, it might rain in the afternoon, it might rain in the evening. You still get plenty of sunshine, and you know, you've been in the gym, you've been working in cafes anyway, so it's not a huge issue. But yeah, I feel like it's the place to be at the minute for me anyway. You know, my plan originally was to go to Australia. So when I came here June last year, plan was to stay for 2 or 3 months and then move to either Melbourne or Sydney, and that was the plan, you know, set up there. But after living here for like a month or two, mate, I was like, why would I leave? You know, and what you were saying there about that sort of culture that's in Australia of, you know, work Monday to Friday, you know, grind, and then, you know, come to the weekend, go out in the piss. And yeah, I just didn't see the pull for it. Obviously, they have good weather over there. Obviously, there's GA, which is probably one of the things that here is lacking, you know, and that's something that I probably do miss. And that was one of the reasons why I did go home, you know, last summer or in the summer there, was because I had that bit of an itch, you know, and be around that sort of energy and the competitiveness, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although there is AFL out here, and I've been playing a bit of that, which has been good, but it's just not the same, you know, you probably don't get that sort of same community or same competitiveness, you know, yourself. There's nothing that can sort of top that, you know, championship day or the week of championship, you know, the buzz that's there and preparation and the hard sessions that you do, you know. So obviously that's a downside, but yeah, it's a small one. It's a small price to pay, you know, for obviously the benefits that you get. And yeah, I feel for training, for mindset as well, and then again for productivity with work, especially with the work we're trying to do with coaching, trying to push the online business and content and everything else. It's a good place to be, you know. And like we were chatting about the other day, it's difficult at home at times, you know, because you're in that sort of bubble, and you know, probably you're surrounded by people that aren't on, not that aren't on a similar level, but that aren't probly doing the same thing. And you know,
Yeah.
you probably feel uncomfortable at times, you know, even recording content, you know, in the
Mm.
house, or you know, going out and about, going for a walk, you know, down the road. Like
Yeah.
it's different here, you know, it's a bit more normalized, and that's obviously a positive. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I feel like it's so easy to feed off people out here. Like, just even this morning down at the ice bath and the sauna, it's at the wrong gym, like, and nearly every person there was getting in the ice bath or doing the sauna. And like, if I was at home and it was 4 degrees outside and I was having to go and get in the Lumi tub out the back, like, it's me against me.
Yeah.
But if I'm in here and the sun's shining, it is cold in that tub now, but there's people getting in and they're sitting for 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm like, well, if he's doing it, I'm doing it. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? You get that bit of drive, motivation, and that comes into building the business as well, as you say. Like, I've never had as much growth, I suppose, in 1 week in terms of what I've been able to do over the last week, probably. And the thought of just being able to compound that by staying out here longer is huge. But again, as we were speaking about, there's trade-offs. Like, there's always going to be trade-offs when you are anywhere in life. There's no one place that's just going to be the perfect thing. Like, you're going to, you know, you miss out in the Gaelic football. That's probably why I'm here, was because of Gaelic football and feeding off that, and then wanting to improve, and then end up setting up a business of it. So to think that going somewhere in the world and just living there forever without Gaelic football is going to fix everything, it's not. Like, so for me, it's over the last few days of just thinking about, like, where is the balance when it comes to all this, and living the lifestyle, but also getting that part of life that has always been probably part of me, to be honest, is GA. So it's a tough one, to be honest, and it's one that I'll be looking forward to kind of exploring over the next number of years as to where that balance is. So just in terms of, I suppose, you also played at a county level when you were, county minors?
Yeah, so I played up to under 21, and then I was in around the panels for a bit. Probably, you know, I was training my seniors for a bit, and then I was plagued with injuries. And it was at that point when I sort of probably did a bit more traveling, you know, because I was picking up injuries here and there. I was missing games. I was out for, you know, periods of the year, and probably that opened my eye, you know, probably under 21 around that, you know, towards the end of minor. I think that's when the couple of injuries started snowballing, and yeah, probably did give me the opportunity to do a bit more traveling, you know, and probably come, you know, championship season when you can't be booking any holidays, when you can't be going on weekends away, you know, I was probably able to do that because, you know, I was out with maybe a long-term injury, and that was probably one of the first injuries I had. I think it was osteitis pubis, and I think that had me out for 7 months. So I was able to do a bit of traveling, and, you know, off the back of that, probably opened my eyes to, you know, what life outside of, you know, committing your whole life to GAA looks like. And yeah, then it's sort of again, feel like up until minor, up until under 21, it was, you know, largely by the book. I probably committed everything, and, you know, there was very little drinking. You know, I remember when everyone first started going out, you know, 16, 17, 18, you know, going into Belfast, and, you know, I was taking the car because we had training the next morning, or we had training, you know, the next day, and we had a game the next week, or, you know, we had a game in 4 weeks. And it was one of them things where, you know, I probably committed a lot and dedicated a lot, and then yes, you know, our club, we won plenty of championships, we won minors, we won under 21s, we were competing in Ulster against the likes of Glen, you know, other big teams like that. But yeah, probably just didn't get the success that, you know, we were after. And then, you know, you're probably looking at, you know, are you getting the return on investment, you know, committing or living like a monk and committing your life to training 4 or 5 times a week, and probably not getting as much out of it as, you know, you would expect. And yeah, that was one of the things that then probably, not that I got disinterested with it, or, you know, probably not that I went the complete opposite way, but just that I wasn't probably willing to sacrifice my whole life, you know, for it. Yeah. But injuries probably did play a part in that, you know, and then experiencing other things because of that. And then, yeah, but I still do get the itch, you know, being out here, and it is difficult, especially when not when pre-season kicks in, you know. I'm not missing
enough at the minute.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not missing that, but, you know, when the league kicks in and when it starts to get a bit competitive, and, you know, especially around championship, when that buzz is there. Yeah. I remember last year, obviously, or the season just passed there, I went home for the summer, and, you know, I was able to play a bit, which was good. It was good being back involved. Previous year, you know, I was away. I was in Marbella, and I didn't go back for the championship. And, you know, watching the games and stuff, it was difficult. And, you know, there was probably a bit inside of me that sort of regretted not making the decision to go back. But yeah, that was a lot of things in combination, made me make that decision. I feel like for business wise, it made sense for me to be away because, like I said, that environment, being away, and then trying to obviously push the coaching, it was good for that. I feel like it benefited my business a lot. But yeah, it's one of the things. I don't plan on being out here forever, and I feel like, spending at least a bit of the year here is definitely beneficial, or anywhere, as opposed to being at home all year round. And yeah, it's obviously opened my eyes up that there's plenty of opportunities out here and connect with like-minded individuals, and then yeah, just good for the mindset in general.
So in terms of, I suppose, the coaching side of things, me and you probably are in a similar enough place in that we started off in a different probably avenue, and probably went down this avenue just out of probably different enough reasons. So do you want to give us a bit of insight as to how you ended up in this situation, I suppose?
So yeah, obviously finishing up school, I initially wanted to be a teacher. So I was wanting to be a PE teacher. And that was probably from being around some of the PE teachers in our school. It looks like they had the life of it, coaching a bit after school, getting out for games, and then, probably doing minimal work, and that probably looked like it was the dream job. And then, yeah, probably just coming towards the end of school and trying to make that decision, university choice, what course I'm going to do. Probably went with the secure option of, something that there was a lot more jobs, a lot more security, and, there was that sort of opinion that there's not that much teaching jobs available, so it was a bit risky. So I ended up going down the sort of technology route, and then I done a sort of software computer science degree at Queen's, and then I was working for a software company in Uri. So I was working for like a sports technology company that done like sports analysis, and they done like GPS tracking and a whole host of other things for like Premier League teams, for rugby teams, and for teams all across the board in different sports. So I was working there for maybe 3-4 years, and as much as I was competent at it, I was probably working my way up in the company. It just didn't really fulfill me. And at the same time, COVID had hit, and I was then doing a bit of coaching on the side, just purely for enjoyment. And I was sort of, helping a couple of my mates with a bit of programming, a bit of online programming. Yourself, when COVID hit, it was the living room workouts, where you're doing plenty of push-ups. You had the pull-up bar on the door. You probably had the luxury of having the gym, but yeah, probably then I was doing a bit on the side, and then it got to a stage where, probably was in the back of my head that, I'm enjoying this, and, can I make this work? And then, yeah, I was always wanting to do a bit of traveling as well. It was around that time where I wanted to have that bit more freedom to travel, and I wasn't being able to, I didn't have that opportunity with the company that I was working for. So I was doing the coaching on the side, coaching a couple of my mates for free, just doing it for enjoyment. And then I sort of bit the bullet and went all in, and obviously left the software role. And it wasn't because, I wanted that bit more freedom, or I wanted this and that. It was purely because I didn't think I was passionate, and it didn't fulfill me, as much as, like I said, as I was confident that the work I was doing, and, I was working my way up in the company, it just didn't fulfill me. And I knew that it wasn't fully right for me. And I remember having a conversation with lads at lunchtime, and even, just being in work in general, though, anytime training and nutrition was brought up at lunchtime, or in between, you could talk for days on it, and it fired you up, and you were passionate about it. And in your spare time, you were online reading articles, you were listening to podcasts, probably very like yourself, where 100%. You're doing things, and it's just natural to you. It's not, it doesn't feel like work as such, and it comes naturally. So yeah, it's probably around that time when I knew that I should try and sort of pursue this, and maybe go towards something that I am a bit more passionate about. And that's when I took the leap, and sort of haven't looked back since. And but yeah, funny, we're both in the similar position where we probably, we're in the sort of corporate, or at least going down that side of things, where, you probably went down the safe option of, I think you were engineering, weren't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, did you jump ship before getting that, or after you finished, or before finishing that, or was it?
Yeah, I kind of made up my mind early doors in that course, to be honest. Like after 2 years, probably, that I just wasn't enjoying it. But it got to the stage, as you say, it's the safe option to finish it out, to have it there, So
you did finish it?
So I finished it.
Yeah, I was the
same. Which I don't regret finishing it. It's still there. It's always nice to have something like that. Also nice to know that I could do it. It was a bit of an achievement to finish it, and kind of, obviously COVID was a blessing in disguise, to be honest. Like that was when I made the leap. Just I was like, I'll set up an Instagram, see how it goes. Probably similar to yourself in that was probably always the go-to guy in terms of the friend group. Like, knew all about fitness, was mad about it, nutrition, everything, researching online for hours just to try and make, as for selfish reasons, for myself. And then was probably always known as the guy who was probably a bit tapped when it came to that sort of thing, and just always thinking about it. So yeah, when that opportunity arose over COVID and I started it up, it was kind of a no-brainer. It kind of, people start messaging you then for coaching, they kind of see what you're doing, putting out content, and then it just snowballed from there. And I didn't need to go and pursue a job in the engineering side of things, because this was going well and I was enjoying it.
Yeah, and it's sort of that fulfillment that you get as well, you know, and the connections that you can build, and, you know, seeing someone progress, not just with their physique or their performance, you know, but mentally as well, and seeing how much they can grow as a person and the confidence that they can gain from, you know, even things that'll benefit their social life, their relationships, and just helping them be a happier person. And that's one of the biggest things, you know, that sort of impact that you can have. And people probably see online, you know, the transformations or the testimonials about, you know, maybe hitting new max speeds, new strength markers in the gym, you know, maybe getting into better shape physically. But, you know, one of the biggest things, and it's very rewarding, is obviously, you know, the mental benefits and how you can affect someone's life. And I think it's a game changer. But yeah, not straight path to what we're doing at the minute, but we got there eventually, and hopefully we can push on.
No regrets.
So
it's like people are probably seeing what we're doing online, and we're posting stuff in Bali, and it looks, you know, everyone's probably jealous as fuck back home, if we're being honest about it. But probably a side of it people don't see is like a massive reason we're out here is because it pushes our business forward far faster than we can push it back or push it forward back home. So we're not just out here just living it up either. Like, you're working, putting in big hours, like, to be honest.
That's it, mate. So every time I jump on a call with lads back home, or even sometimes touching base with a client or a new client, the first thing, you know, you're living the life out there, or, you know, you're lucky, this and that. And as much as, you know, I'm grateful to be here and there's a lot of positives, but, you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You know, there is challenges, and it's difficult being away from home, especially with family. And I have young nieces and nephews who I'd be pretty close with, and then obviously, you know, my inner family as well, where it's difficult being away from them for long periods of time. And then obviously you've got other things where when you are pushing business so hard, I'm sure you have experienced this too, you know, you're probably stuck at the laptop 10, 12 hours a day sometimes, you know, and as much as you do be communicating with clients, you know, you're probably not getting that social interaction that you would have got, you know, maybe if you were working in an office, or, you know, maybe again, if you were living at home or living with other people. So yeah, again, there's that isolation that comes with being an online coach, or that comes with, you know, running an online business in general, where, you know, a lot of the time you are sat at the desk by yourself. And even more so out here, you know, there's been challenges, and, you know, probably don't have that sort of proper close circle that you would have at home, and that support network. But yeah, again, there's ups and downs, and people don't see that side of things. So and they probably see, you know, the sunsets on the stories, and they might see, you know, the nice weather, they might see the nice gyms. But again, it's not social media for you. There's always more to it, and a lot of people don't realize that, you know.
Yeah, it's probably our fault, a lot of it, that we're posting the good side of things a lot. But it can be lonely, I'd imagine, out here. You know, like when shit does hit the fan, you're on your own. Like, you're gonna have to deal with it yourself. You're a long way from family. You're a long way from close friends. And as well as that, like, you know, we talked about this probably during the week. But in terms of our hours, like that we work, there is no really specific hours. So someday you could get up and start working at 7:30, 8, and 8:30 or 9 that night you're still working, because you might have content to create and produce. Your brain's nearly always going. I think that's probably a downfall of us as coaches at times, is that our brains are nearly always on thinking about the next thing. And I suppose that's probably a benefit that people get when they are in 9 to 5, is when you leave that door, a lot of the time you're finito, and you're finito obviously for the weekend. So that's something I think I can get better at 100%, is having downtime, having time where I'm literally not thinking about the business, or I'm not thinking about coaching. So it's probably, again, I'm not giving out either. I'd still be very grateful for the opportunity that online coaching gives you. But again, it's as you say, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's on the other side of the world.
Yeah, definitely can relate to that last bit, man. It's so I was here came out here last June or last July, and I was here for you know, probably 9 months in total. I did go home for Christmas, and then I came back out until sort of the start of the summer, and then obviously I went back to Ireland to see my family and to play a bit of football. But yeah, I feel like the first time I was in Bali, I wasn't really here. You know, I was probably in the stage where it was sink or swim, and you know, I still am. You know, and that's the nature of running your online business. It's always, you know, you have to keep pushing, and because especially the market is so saturated, it's always in your mind. You know, what if and you have them doubts of, you know, what if I lose 20 clients? What if I lose 30 clients? Or, you know, what if, you know, there's always them sort of worries and anxieties, which is completely normal, and you have to embrace them, you know. But yeah, I feel like when I was here the first time, you know, probably here for 5 or 6 months, but I wasn't really here. You know, I was spending most of my days on the laptop, and like you said, I wasn't having that downtime. And as much as I was in Bali, you know, I wasn't the man was elsewhere, and it probably did lead me to a point where I probably burnt myself out, and you know, got to the stage where I was really stressed. You know, sleep got worse, and yeah, there was challenges there. It probably caused issues personally as well. You know, relationship problems and stuff, because I was probably pushing too hard and probably wasn't, like I said, having that adequate downtime. And something I say to clients all the time, and don't take my own advice. You know, make sure when you're doing your weekly plan and you're sort of writing what needs to be done for the week, when you're training, when you're working, you know, planning that downtime, and make sure that it is intentional. And it's easy to say, you know, Friday night I'm going to chill out, or Friday night I'm going to have that downtime. But, you know, what are you actually doing? Because it's very easy to fall into the trap of, you know, it comes to Friday night and you're sat scrolling social media. Yeah. Or it comes to Friday night and you're sat scrolling. Do you know what I mean? And then you're not really getting that downtime, you know, and you probably then are still overwhelmed, still stressed. And it comes to, you know, Saturday, Sunday, you maybe do the same. You don't really plan in something that you enjoy, you know, fun things. And so yeah, since being back, I've tried to have that bit more of a balance, and I'm trying to set a bit more boundaries now. Yeah, still challenges there, and probably haven't got the right balance, but definitely has improved, you know.
Yeah, I think that point about downtime, just to delve a bit deeper into it, is you may think, a lot of people think they're having downtime, but you're not actually switched off. So I would have fallen into that trap myself of saying, right, nearly thinking too much about having downtime. So that was nearly creating a situation where my brain was just going 90, thinking about what I could do to actually switch off, instead of just doing nothing or going somewhere where I'm actually switched off. So some people might switch off watching Netflix. They're just being in their own mind and they're actually relaxed. Someone else might switch off by going outside for a walk without their phone in nature. But finding things that you actually enjoy doing, where you're not thinking about work or sport or family, is the key. And, you know, as I said, everyone's going to have different things. I would have thought like certain things for me was switching off, and then I was told then by some like different people that you know you're not switched off there, and then my sleep was being affected, and the brain was just going all the time. So to be honest, like, would you, in terms of things that you think help you fully switch off, like for me it could be in the sauna. For me it's probably going out for a walk on my own. The gym isn't one, because you know it's just not the place to switch off, and that's where I would have thought I was switching off, but it doesn't make sense, because you're in a bit of a fight or flight state within the gym. So what was your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, definitely what you said there. Like, I'd be big into the saunas, and only really picked that up recently. I was probably against them for a while, you know, because of the fact that, well, probably not recently as such, maybe in the last year, you know, I've probably been hammering them a good bit when I was home there. And then obviously we have the recovery spot, the gym we're out here, which is quality. But yeah, I feel like you can get that sort of, not big into the, you know, the benefits that it provides. The main thing is it helps you relax, and you sort of feel good after coming out. Yeah, big into the saunas, going for walks, maybe listening to a podcast, although sometimes you can fall into the trap of listening to a podcast about, you know, maybe training, nutrition, mindset things, and then your mind spiraling about business, about, you know, so yeah, probably just trying to pick the right podcast, and one that, you know, helps you sort of zone out. But yeah, a nice walk in nature, like you said. And, you know, sunset walks at the beach is something that I've been trying to implement out here, and I feel like it's, you know, it's good for the mind. Yeah, outside of that, probably, you know, I enjoy going for a coffee and just literally enjoying myself and just enjoying the coffee, as opposed to, you know, going for a coffee and having the laptop out and planning. So yeah, saunas. I see, with regards to the gym sessions, I do find that sometimes I can get a bit of a release from them. Although, you know, it's probably a gym session where I'm not looking at my phone, it's on Do Not Disturb, you know, I have a good playlist on, and I'm not thinking about, you know, recording content or anything like that. It's, you know, Do Not Disturb, and it's just, you know, you're putting the work in with a nice with a nice playlist, and that's usually good for me. But yeah, walks are key, and saunas have been quality as well.
I think music's a big one, and actually thinking about the sort of genres that you're choosing when you're listening to music. Certain types of music, will nearly put your head through that wall, but choosing music that actually allows you to just kind of switch off, probably tune into your own body, I suppose. There's plenty of good playlists out there for before bed, or even if you are out for a walk. I find just kind of tuning into music is a big one for me, where I can fully switch off. I'm not actually thinking about content, or I'm not thinking about life in general. But yeah, I think it's a big one, and just something as well that we kind of have been speaking about the last few days is the Whoop. And to be honest, like, a lot of people ask me, should I get a Whoop? Is it worth it? Funny, a client actually had texted me yesterday, and I was like, it costs, if you buy a year, it costs you £4 a week. I was thinking it's a no-brainer, but the reason why the Whoop helped me the most is because it actually made me aware of my sleep. It made me aware of my recovery, and then I went and I was putting things in place, implementing things to actually improve that. So over a period of time, then I had actually got all these different habits in place throughout my day, throughout my morning, like the Huberman, getting your sunlight in your eyes, putting in different things at night to actually switch off, was because I was seeing the stats on the Whoop. And it's nothing to do with, it's unbelievably accurate, or, all that side of things. I'm not really that interested in that side of things. It's more so for actually making you think and actually putting things in place to improve your health, improve your life, improve your sleep.
Yeah, it's the accountability, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's as much as, like you say, it can show you all these fancy graphs about your sleep and about your training and how much work you've put in that day. But yeah, it's the accountability, because when you're waking up and you're seeing that you've had 5-6 hours of sleep and you're in the red, it probably does push you that bit more to maybe take it easy a bit the next day, or to focus on actually getting them habits in place, like you said, so you can get a good quality sleep the next night. And yeah, I've been struggling with the recoveries recently. Sleep hasn't been great, so I need to be actually implementing a bit more. And yeah, like you were saying, having that bit more of a downtime and actually focusing on good quality sleep. But yeah, I feel like that's something that we were speaking about the other day, and it's probably getting more and more, and you're seeing a lot more information being put out there on social media. Huberman, Matthew Walker, about sleep and how important it is. But I feel like there's probably a lot of people that are, still neglecting it, or that think that it's not really, that important to actually put a focus on it. And it's something that I've been hammering to clients, and I feel like the people that have got the best results working with me, have put a big emphasis on getting that into a good place. And the benefits are endless, not just for training performance and not just for, energy and performance for athletes, but things that'll help you, but for productivity and work, for general mood, alertness, and, concentration throughout the day. I feel like, everyone should make it a priority. And it's not saying, everyone needs a Whoop. It's just that, just making that wee bit more of an effort. And, one of the easiest things that I feel like a lot of people can do is just trying to reduce their caffeine intake. And I fell in the trap of doing that one too many times. And I still do from time to time. You've plenty of work on, or you've a session to do and you're low on energy. You might go for that coffee in the afternoon or whatever it is. And the odd time it's fine, but generally, I try and avoid. And just small things like that, avoiding caffeine intake throughout the day, probably having that cutoff point at say 11 or 12 in the day, and calling it quits then. And if you do fancy a coffee or a tea later on in the day, opting for the decaf. And I feel like that has helped my sleep massively. And it's one of the biggest red flags. People come to me and they would say, listen, my sleep isn't great, or check in for them, they put down, sleep has been less than ideal the last week. And the first question is, how's our caffeine intake? Are you slamming cups of tea, Coke Zeros? And people don't think that there's much caffeine in the likes of, a can of Coke Zero or in a cup of tea. But when you add them up and when you're having them that close to bed, it's a disaster.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like when it comes to sleep, it's really important to be aware of it and to put in measures in place, but to also not be extremely rigid and to feel like everything has to be nailed just for you to have a good sleep. People are probably missing the point when they're going that far down the rabbit hole. I 100% did it myself. I was in a state of where I thought everything had to be perfect for me to sleep well. And I was actually chatting to someone then, and they were like, how did you sleep when you were 20? Or how did you sleep when you were 18 or 19? And I was like, mate, I just sat in the bed scrolling Instagram, whatever social media, and I fell asleep, no bother, had a great sleep. Yes, quality might have been good, but then it got to a stage where the more I was thinking about sleep and the more I was, having to have everything perfect, I was actually probably sleeping worse then. So it's about putting measures in place, but having a bit of wiggle room too, and a bit of common sense when it comes to, if you did have a cup of tea in the evening time, or you did have a bit of caffeine a bit later because you had to do a bit more work, then don't think it's the end of the world. Just, get back on it the next day, and over a period of time, consistently show up and consistently put these habits in place. And over time, your sleep will really improve, your energy will really improve, your recovery between sessions will improve, you'll adapt better to sessions, and you'll just become better over a period of time.
It's that sort of consistency over perfection, and that's another thing, that sleep anxiety when you can't get the sleep and then you start going, oh, I've only got 5 hours until my alarm goes, and then that just compounds and adds more stress. So one of them things where, and I actually read something about that recently where they said if that happens, just realize that you are resting and you're getting good rest, and even though you're not actually asleep, you're still sort of recovering. And that leads on to another thing I wanted to chat about, and a big thing that I've been doing recently. Sleep hasn't been great since been doing a bit of traveling, and obviously, and still trying to settle in the new place that I've moved into recently. And sleep has been less than ideal. So big thing that I've been doing recently is leaning in on the non-sleep deep rest, so the yoga nidra. I'd actually seen on Huberman's podcast, and it's been quality, man. So be doing that probably most afternoons when I get that bit of a dip, and it takes 15-20 minutes, and it's a game changer. You wake up bit groggy to start, but after a while, you definitely are energized, and there's studies to back that, that it's probably as effective as, like a 30 or like a 45-minute nap. And, it takes 50 minutes, and it's just about getting your body in that relaxed state, and probably something that most people never do. And it's simple as, breathing, deep breathing, and just actually focusing on being present, as opposed to, your mind racing and thinking about 100 different things. But non-sleep deep rest has been good, and has been able to peg back a bit of my poor sleep habits over the last while. So recommend to anyone that is, gets a subpar sleep the night before and they want to just get that bit of energy back. And I find a lot of people struggle to nap, and even me, if I try and nap, most of the time I'll not sleep. It's, probably you nap by accident sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, watching the football, or, after a big feed. But if you find that you're getting that sort of afternoon slump and you have a bit of time, 10-15 minutes, you don't need to be in bed. You can be sitting, you can be lying down. 10-15 minutes. Non-sleep deep rest, and generally it's proven to be beneficial, and I found it's helped massively.
And I think it's a problem a lot of people have, is that energy dip when they get to midday. And there's a few different things obviously you can do for that, like pushing your caffeine back first 90 minutes, just to allow your body's cortisol levels to rise naturally, instead of just spiking the life out of them as soon as you get out of bed, which most people continue to do, even though the research is there, and then they get this big crash after lunch. Again, not something that, has to be done every day, but over a period of time, consistently put in those wee small habits, and you're going to feel a lot better for it. Other things, I suppose, is sunlight. Trying to get sunlight in your eyes, both in the morning and in the afternoon, just so your body knows that it's supposed to be awake. A lot of people spend a lot of their time, they get up in the mornings, they get ready, they get in the car, they go to work, they're sitting in a dark building all day, and they wonder why after 4 or 5 coffees that they're absolutely wrecked come 2 or 3 o'clock. So there's things we can do, it's not rocket science. Like, a lot of people think they're just different to everyone else, and that their energy levels are just shocking all the time. But I feel like there's just small measures we can do to help that side of things, and sunlight, caffeine timing and intake is probably 2 of them. But then again, as you say, that non-sleep deep rest protocol that Huberman talks about a lot, it's 5-10 minutes, you're just lying on the floor nearly, or lying in your bed, you're going through, you're scanning your whole body to try and relax every single limb in your body. You're not actually sleeping, but your body's getting that period of downtime and rest. And you've noticed that it gives a serious boost
Definitely
at that time of the day, which is needed.
And if it is earlier in the day, a coffee before doing it, is serious. But most of the time when I'm doing it, it's a bit late, so I haven't been able to get that in. But 11, 12 o'clock in the day, bit of coffee before, then the non-sleep deep rest, and then after, I find that's a magic bullet if you want to be getting a serious block of work done or a serious training session. But just what you were saying there, consistent sleep and wake times, I think, is a big one. And I find that after a weekend, or after a bit of traveling, or you've been on the beer one night, or you've just been up later one night, and generally then you wake up slightly later the next day, that'll throw you off. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that under control, and it can make a massive difference because, like you says, when you have that consistent sleep and wake times, your body clock knows, when it's time to wake up, when it's time to go to sleep. Whereas when you start sort of going off track with that, it's very difficult to get that back into a good place. And a lot of people struggle with that, shift workers and the people that are working late nights. And yeah, again, the more you can keep that sort of sleep schedule in a consistent place, even on weekends, a lot of people struggle with that. It comes to Saturday and they're going, right, I deserve a lie in here, or I'm going to lie in. And it's more, again, there's a time and place, but I feel like a lot of the time it's counterproductive, to having that sort of offset in your sleep and wake times. And yeah, it probably causes issues, yourself, big lie on the Sunday morning, and then when you're trying to go to bed on a Sunday night to get up early for work the next morning, it's
Body doesn't
and
know
then
what's
it's just spirals. And it's one of them things I feel like a lot of people are in that vicious cycle of probably over consuming caffeine later in the day, which then leads to bad quality sleep the next night. And as much as people say, I can have a coffee or I can have a cup of tea in the evening, or whatever it is, Coke Zero, or even pre-workout before the gym, 5 or 6 o'clock, and I can still fall asleep. But it's not really just about getting the sleep, it's about the quality of it. And there's obviously studies to show that caffeine will have a serious effect on the quality of, on the amount of deep sleep that you'll get, so yeah, get that all the time. I can fall asleep fine. And even when you're in a restaurant, you see people ordering espressos after dinner, or like Irish coffees. And like I said, there's a time and place. Even like an espresso martini, I love them myself. And if there's a decaf option, generally I'll go for it. Although I don't know if I trust some restaurants. Sometimes you ask them, do you have decaf? Yeah, no problem. But I don't know if I'd risk it half the time. But yeah, vicious cycle. And people say, listen, I can sleep fine just after a coffee, just after a tea, right before bed. But yeah, it's the quality that you want to focus on too, not just quantity.
Yeah. Another thing, alcohol. I suppose it's something I feel like is starting to shift across the board with a lot of people. Is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to going out in the piss? And something I've probably been really focusing on over the last number of months. It's just like picking and choosing when you actually go past that 5 or 6 drinks and you have a big night out. I just feel the effect that it has isn't worth it for most people. 2, 3, 4 days later, you're still feeling tired, you're still feeling groggy. And it's all for a couple of hours where you're not the same person as you usually are. And I feel like a lot of it is just escaping your current life. Of course, there's opportunities and there's events and stuff where alcohol does add to it. You're with a group of friends, you could be at a wedding, after a championship or something like that there, I'm all for that. But on a lot of occasions, I feel like consuming alcohol past 5 or 6 drinks just isn't worth it. And to be honest, I've kind of started to shift now to enjoying alcohol for what it is, sitting down and having a beer or having a pint or having 2 or 3 pints and actually fully enjoying just that social interaction that you can have with it in certain places, like maybe going into especially over here, some days you could have or some weeks you could work really hard. It comes to the weekend and you might just sit and enjoy a couple of beers at the weekend. But as I said, it's once you go past that threshold, I find it can have serious negative impact. So I suppose what's your thoughts on that, especially being out here in the good weather?
Man, after one beer, I feel the effects of it the next day.
Do you?
Yeah, well,
to
an extent. And even as simple as 1 or 2 cocktails with dinner or 1 or 2 beers, definitely feel the effects. And even if that is, even just mindset wise, or, potentially a bit of dehydration, or potentially, a bit of strength in the gym the next day, just not there fully. And it's probably something that I've been, as time's gone on the past few years, been limiting, and probably would limit it to once a month, probably would limit it to once a month, once every 2 months even. And generally at the minute, I feel like I probably will sustain from it for a good bit. And yeah, just mindset wise, mate, I think, the next few days, like you says, it's difficult to do anything. Like you can't bring yourself to do a bit of work and generally productivity is completely shot. And
Brilliant.
Same with training performance, you're not going to be lifting, the same numbers in the gym for at least a couple of days. And even adherence with nutrition, yourself. And the biggest problem with alcohol, I don't think is anything to do with the calories, or a lot of people how you see online a lot of the times how to fit in drinking at the weekend into your nutrition plan and how to fit in 3 glasses of wine or 3 gin and tonics or 3 beers. It's not about that. I feel like, the biggest problem is the effect that it has on your sleep quality and, how much that suffers. And, there's studies out there to show that even as much as, having 1 beer will significantly reduce the amount of deep sleep that you'll get. And that's probably the reason why the next day, all you want to eat is shite food, and all you want to, that affects your hunger hormones and sort of affects the signal into your brain that, as much as you eat, and no matter how much you eat, you're still hungry, and you always want that bit more snacks. And you always want the bad food, you want the pizzas, you want the Chineses. So, but the main reason for me, mate, is productivity with work, and that's probably one of the things that drives me to avoid it. And don't get me wrong, when I was home in the summer there, a music festival or, a night out with the lads here and there, like a birthday, I will have a few, I will enjoy myself. But generally, if it's a weekend, and I'm just going out for a bite to eat, unless it's special occasions or unless I really want to, mate. And it's one of them things where probably being able to say no at times, and, you have them pressures of people going, oh, why are you not drinking? Or, oh, go on, just have a few, or you're a boring cunt, and probably something I've got good at the last few years, mate. Probably being in circles of friends and probably being in, situations where there probably is a decent bit of drinking done. And just probably getting to the stage where being able to say no, and probably, because within yourself, you don't actually fully want to go on the drink, or, you don't want to be down for the next 3 days. And that's the main thing, mate. I feel like just productivity and work's the main thing. And then just mindset wise, it does affect me. And like I said, the next few days you're chasing your tail. And just general mood, mate, is affected as well. And for me, a lot of times the juice isn't worth the squeeze with regards to how it makes you feel the next few days. So I feel like I'm going to have a sober November and I'm moving forward. And
I found in the past, like, I actually didn't even want to drink, but it was because there was an occasion or something where all your friends are drinking and, you just end up drinking. And that's usually when you feel worse. Then there'll be occasions where, like, I actually, I've earned, well, it's not that you need to earn it either, but it's like I've worked hard. I actually want to have a few beers, I want to have a decent night out. I'm happy to make the trade-off. And, like, I suppose we're not talking to a group of people here that are going to 100% just go off the drink. So I suppose there are measures you can take to limit the negative effects of alcohol. I feel like I've perfected it at this stage.
I'd be big into that as well.
Hydration, I find, is absolutely massive. Like, after a night out, when I come in, I mind I put up my story once, chug 3 pints of water with salt and all of them. Like, but I get up the next day and I honestly don't feel too bad. My cravings don't be too bad. My food choices that day don't be too bad. The only thing I really have to deal with then is a wee bit of brain fog, and productivity levels still a bit poor. But a trade-off again every so often I'm happy to make. So a lot of people people text me and they're like, oh, I just have awful hangovers. I'm like, what are you doing? Just go to bed. And I get up the next day and I'm absolutely fucked. And I'm like, because you're unbelievably dehydrated.
Rack of pints and then a pizza followed by no liquids whatsoever.
Yeah,
mate, I'd be big into that as well. Trying to minimize the damage and doing what you can. And like you say, when that sort of event does come up at a time where you do fancy getting on the beer or fancy a few cocktails with dinner, then 100% go for it. And like I said, I wouldn't say that, I'm not going to drink again. And I don't think I'll ever say that, but just probably reducing the amount and probably not doing it as frequent. And I feel like a lot of people are probably swaying towards that now and are realizing the negative effects that it has. But like, again, you obviously work with clients, me working with clients, most of them are going to be dabbling in meals out. They're going to be dabbling in nights out for birthdays, holidays, weddings from time to time. So generally it's one of the things where you have to try and, again, make it clear to them that they probably won't get the best results doing that, but you definitely can fit it in as long as there's a balance there. And like you said, having them protocols in place with regards to, first of all, your nutrition. So before you go out, a big thing that I emphasize and that I do myself is, make sure your protein target is met, and that, that'll limit any sort of potential muscle loss that you'll get from, going on the beer, and then obviously the poor sleep that you're going to inevitably get after it. So hit your protein intake before you go out. So loading that up at the start of the day, and then, even if it means you have to have a shake when you get home, which is probably the last thing you want to get into, but it's as simple as getting it down the hatch, and that'll go a long way in at least trying to maintain your muscle mass and preventing any sort of, again, strength loss there. And then, like you says, even before going out, some electrolytes, some salt, water, pink salt, whatever it is, and trying to get that in the good spot. And then again, post session, so post 10 beers, post 5 beers, whatever it is, when you get home, as much as it's probably the last thing you want to drink, a bit of sugar-free Robinsons, electrolytes, and a heap of water again, just to try and get that in a good spot. Because like you says, dehydration is probably one of the things that causes most of the bad side effects. But yeah, again, trying to get that in a good spot, and then damage limitation.
Yeah. I suppose we're at this time of the year now where this chat's probably quite relevant when it comes to alcohol intake, and there's more opportunities for nights out and events. And this is also a time where making progress in terms of your physical attributes is huge. Like we've got a period now of probably 2-3 months where certain lads will be looking to strip off body fat. Certain lads might be needing to put on some size. So just in terms of that side of things, in terms of the perspective of an athlete, I know I get a lot of questions as well about, what should I be doing? Should I be losing body fat now? Should I be building muscle now? And a lot of the people who come are in a position where they're kind of in that middle zone where they're carrying a wee bit of body fat, but they also don't have much muscle. So what would your thoughts be? I know I have my own way of going about things, but, what would your thoughts be in terms of stripping off the body fat first, building from there, or if they just have very little muscle mass, just going straight into a building phase?
Yeah, I feel like if there is someone in that position, like you say, is carrying a bit of excess body fat and probably doesn't have a decent bit of muscle mass on them, then you definitely could recomp them to start. So probably having them in around maintenance calories and focusing on a high protein intake along with a solid training plan where they're pushing numbers in the gym, where they're progressing weights, and when they're doing that consistently, they definitely can lose a bit of body fat and gain muscle at the same time. And then eventually there will be a sticking point, and again, a lot of things come into play there. How well are they recovering? How well are they sleeping? What does their training history look like? Again, if they're sort of a beginner and, like you said, don't have that much muscle and a bit of body fat to lose, then, having their calories at maintenance, pushing the intensity in the gym, sleeping well and focusing on a high protein diet definitely can progress. And then, like you says, probably get to a sticking point then when you'll have to either go one way or the other with regards to, maybe a slight deficit to trim off the excess body fat while focusing on trying to maintain the muscle that they've built. Mm-hmm. Or, go the opposite way. If they're lean enough, they can potentially commit to a bit of a lean gaining phase. But yeah, again, if it's someone that is sort of in the middle, most of the time, if they have been training consistently in the gym, I'll probably go down the route of, probably tidying things up slightly. Yeah. And there's no reason why people can't build muscle at the same time, because a lot of the time people don't have that structure in place. Yeah. And same with nutrition, they probably don't have a solid nutrition plan in place. So if you have solid nutrition plan in place, if you have, sleep in a good spot and you're training hard in the gym, progressing numbers, along with being in a slight deficit, and there's no reason why you can't build muscle and lose a bit of body fat at the same time. But there will be a point when you'll have to, commit to one or the other.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of athletes in that bracket. And it, like as you say, if you're someone who is fairly beginner within the gym, couple of years, you've been in the gym, but you haven't really stuck to a proper training program, you haven't trained with intensity, then playing around with that slight deficit around maintenance is gonna be very beneficial, because you're going to be able to build strength 100%, potentially build small bits of tissue, but you're also going to be taking off body fat. And I see it a lot with athletes, like you can lean up very quickly. You can really, really, really start to look better and feel better. And then you hit a period of time then where, as you say, you have to go one way or the other. So for a lot of athletes, they can get lean in 6-8 weeks. And then it's about just, slowly progressing things back up and building small bits of tissue while you're working in the gym and still continuing to build strength. And I think in the gym is another area where a lot of athletes will go wrong, and then it's a reason why they'll struggle to see progress. So a lot of athletes think that just turning up and doing the sessions is enough. But if you're not actually training with intensity, if you're not trying to get stronger week on week or bi-weekly, then your muscle or your body has no reason, there's no stimulus to change. So that's probably why a lot of these are ending up in that zone where you feel like you're not making any progress. So there's a few different elements that come into it. Obviously, you've got your nutrition, you've also got the gym side of things, you've got your lifestyle, you've got your sleep, which is the part where your body actually switches off and recovers. And this is why another reason why I suppose me and you be hammering that sleep side of things. But if you want your body to adapt, the sleep quality needs to be good, but also the sleep quantity needs to be there as well, to provide enough time for your muscle to regrow and to build back bigger, as which is obviously important if you're trying to put on size over the winter. So there's a lot of factors go into it.
Yeah, definitely, man. But what you were saying there, I feel like the off season, especially, the next lot of weeks, it's the perfect time for people to focus on body composition, because you have that bit of flexibility with regards to, if you are going to be in a deficit, you have the ability to be, slightly low on energy, because there's not 4 pit sessions that you need to be fresh for. There's no games at the weekend.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a perfect opportunity. Again, you can tidy things up in season, especially, early stages of the league when probably intensity isn't too high, and there's no reason why you can't chip away at body fat during that time as well. But I think now, if you're someone that is carrying a decent bit of body fat, which a lot of players are, your club scene, and you'd be around lads who have probably the same body composition that they had 5 years ago, and they know themselves that they're carrying an extra 5 kilo, and a lot of people probably kid themselves and say, or tell themselves that they've bad genetics or that they can't shrug it, no matter what they do, and that's just, they just accept that they're always going to be carrying that bit extra or overweight essentially, or not lean or not in a decent position. But yeah, it's simple science, and I feel like it's the perfect opportunity for them to dial things in. And if you tick the boxes daily, if you're consistent with your food, your nutrition, then there's no reason why people can't make a change and change their physique, change their body composition, which, down the line, it's definitely benefit performance. And that's another thing that people, and there's probably a few different opinions there, people focusing on body composition, people focusing on physique, can it benefit performance or does it negatively impact performance? And yeah, I probably went down the route of trying to find that right balance, and I'd be big into, there's no reason why you can't improve your physique, there's no reason why you can't improve body composition, and want to look good as well alongside, driving forward with performance. And it's about finding that right balance. And I feel like a lot of S&C coaches would demonize, calorie deficits or working on your physique or working on your body composition, that it's purely, get in the gym, we're working on, squat, bench, deadlift, or we're working on speed, power, plyometrics, and drills like that. And as much as, yes, that does have a part to play, but I feel like for a lot of people and a lot of general population athletes and people who are playing at a decent level with club, simply getting their body composition into a good spot and simply, making them go out onto the field a bit more confident and looking better, feeling better, and then obviously, the benefits that having that bit more muscle, that bit more strength will have, I feel like that does wonders for players, as opposed to, maybe spending all their time and focusing purely on, focusing purely on S&C only,
I think it's the lowest hanging fruit for most athletes. Like it just makes sense. It's physics. Like you're carrying less body fat around the field, your speed's going to be faster. It just makes sense because you're lighter. If you're also improving your strength in the gym, you're going to be faster. It just makes sense. You're going to be better conditioned. It's easier to carry 90 kilos around a pitch than 95, and I know all about that. But then again, what you're doing in the gym too, like it's not as if we're going in and we're just training like complete bodybuilders. We're giving everyone bodybuilding programs, and you're just, we're toning up, we're going to become machines. But you're combining all these things together, your gym, what you're doing in the gym, your speed training, your power training, your conditioning, what you're putting into your body, you're taking off body fat, all these things come together. And I've seen it before, like the drastic changes athletes can make over a period of 12 weeks is massive. So as I said, personally, I think it's the lowest hanging fruit is stripping off that body fat. Because as you say, you're a healthier human for a start, but you're also starting to feel better in your own body. You're starting to feel better in terms of energy every single day. So it's a no-brainer. And it's not like, as you say, it's the off season now. So this is a time where you can actually make that trade-off of being a bit energy deprived, because it's not, you're not on the pitch playing matches. You're not dogging yourself in the pitch. You're not putting yourself at risk of injury. So when we start to progress then later into the year, into February, March time, when games come thick and fast, if you've put in the work, that's when calories start to bump up and things become a lot more enjoyable. You're in good shape. You're being allowed to eat a lot of food day to day. You're starting to enjoy your training. So that's why I like to just hammer and put such an emphasis on the next couple of months and putting in that wee bit of graft, so that come championship time or league time next year, you're in a really good place.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that slow and steady approach as well, where we are talking about, probably going through that period where energy might not be all there, but there's no reason why you can't still keep progressing things in the gym. And probably the only time you want to be really feeling the effects of a deficit is probably after, 8, 10, 12 weeks. And you know, a lot of people would say to me, you know, I'm hungry after 2 weeks of a deficit, or, you know, I've started trying to tidy things up and their energy's low, sleeping poor, numbers are going down in the gym. And that would be a big red flag that, you know, they're probably eating too little.
Yeah.
And it's about finding that right balance. And again, probably eating enough to be in a deficit that you can trim away body fat, but also, you know, eating enough that you can still progress things in the gym. And yeah, probably people make the mistake of going way too low, way too soon. And it's about that gradual approach and probably saving things for down the line. So you don't need to go all out with 15,000 steps a day and 3 running sessions and, you know, 2,000 calories. You know, start as high as possible, get fat loss, still be able to gain muscle, gain strength, and then when that stalls, you know, adjust slowly as needed. So you can either add 1,000 steps or reduce food slightly. And yeah, you don't want to use all the tools too quick, because again, the body will adapt as you lose a bit of body fat. You know, your maintenance calories will naturally adjust, and then you'll have to reduce them. So yeah, the biggest mistake I think people make is going way too low too soon. And if you start at that high period, you have room to maneuver. And I feel like that's probably the best way, not just to get a decent fat loss result, but also sustain it long term. Because, you know, there's studies to show there, if you lose weight or lose fat too quickly, then you're more likely to rebound and it's more likely to go back on. So probably going away from that really aggressive style of dieting and, you know, a slow and steady approach. Now again, you don't want to be dieting for 4 or 5 months on end, but that nice balance of, you know, like you say, is 8, 10, 12 weeks, you know, is probably the sweet spot, as opposed to the 6 weeks shant the shreds that we see at this time of the year and coaches promoting, which are an absolute disaster.
Yeah. I think one way I find anyway, when I have athletes who are in a bit of a energy deficit, is utilizing just carb cycling. So on certain days when you're training, you know, you need to be a bit more strategic in terms of the foods you're consuming, being specific with the foods you're consuming before training, after training, maybe even 2 meals before you do a session, so that the glycogen is it's there, and the fuel is there to be used for that session. If you're constantly, you know, consuming extremely low carbs and calories before sessions, then the chances are you're going to feel like shit when you're in the gym. And it mightn't even be to do with the calories that you're consuming. It's actually the quality of the foods you're consuming. So this is why I like to, you know, put a focus on tracking as well. So you actually start to learn what is in certain foods. You start to know what your body likes before a session. Like, I've often been in big deficits, but due to the 2 meals I've had before the session and maybe a wee carb boost 10-20 minutes before a session, I actually feel brilliant. And something else we've kind of been talking about over the last couple of days, an interesting topic, is that about salts and electrolytes. And I feel like most people don't consume enough salt, but it's about the quality of salt you're consuming as well. So not just any old table salt is going to do the trick. One that I like to use is the Redmond Celtic sea salt. You can get it on Amazon, but actually starting to maybe put a pinch or a bit more even into your morning water, putting a wee bit in before your sessions, during your sessions, maybe salting your meals, provided you're actually doing sessions and you're sweating. I think that can go a long way as well to energy levels.
Yeah, especially, and something that I've been trying to do, you know, every morning, first thing, seriously dehydrated. You know, when you're sleeping, and when you go through that period of sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours, you know, your body is largely made up of water, and you'll lose a lot of that, and in your brain as well. So that's why first thing in the morning you're probably not as alert, brain fog. Whereas if you do hydrate first thing in the morning and get a decent bit of, like I said, electrolytes on board, it can help massively. And then again, in and around your training window, it's a no-brainer. And especially, you know, when you're doing a lot of training, and, you know, even when you're in the likes of back home in the summer, you know, when the temperatures are that bit higher, you're sweating a lot more. There probably needs to be a bit more of an emphasis on it. And yeah, especially since we're out here, you know, we've been hammering it every time we're in a restaurant. You know, we're using half of the salt that's on the table. But yeah, it's one of them things where it's a tool that you can use to benefit your performance, not just in the gym, not just in the field, but, you know, mentally as well. And a lot of people probably don't focus on it, and they think, you know, I'm not going to be putting salt in my water. But yeah, I feel like a bit of salt, sugar-free dilute, is a game changer first thing in the morning and then around your training window.
I found back home, at county level games, I would have cramped 40, 45 minutes into a game and nearly did everything to try and figure out what the problem was. I was doing calf strengthening, bent knee, straight leg. I was trying to build huge volume plyometrics, was doing plenty of running on the pitch, like, so volume. It was pre-season with County, and then we go into the McKenna Cup, and I'd still be cramping even after a serious block. So I was kind of just trying to figure out, like, what is actually the problem here. And then I started to delve a wee bit into hydration. Hydration still would have been good. I would have been still consuming electrolytes, but there's not enough in those small wee tablets that you can buy in the shop. What I started doing was a full half teaspoon of the Redmond Celtic sea salt into a bit of water juice, 300 or 400 ml, about 90 minutes before throwing. I was consuming that across maybe 20 minutes, and I was lasting a good 10, 15 minutes longer in games in terms of my cramping. So I still feel, I think this is still a huge problem in the GAA. There's players coming to me all the time about not being able to last 45, 50, 55 minutes. And there's a few different factors come down, but I think a massive one is your hydration and not consuming enough salts. Then it's probably a lack of, capacity in the tissues around that ankle joint and the Achilles through plyometrics, which is something I've actually been trying to hammer a bit more with my off-season athletes this winter. It's building that capacity in the around that ankle joint, around that calf, so that when we do return to the pitch in February time or January time, that it's there, and they're able to tolerate those loads, I suppose.
It's a complex one, cramping, isn't it? And
yeah.
a lot of the time it can be down to dehydration, but a lot of the time when people are cramping, it's in them high intensity games, and it can be a lack of conditioning and probably not being exposed to that sort of intensity in training, because that's a big mistake a lot of people make and probably causes a lot of people to pick up injuries. They're probably training, but they don't get exposed to that sort of intensity. And probably one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people pick up hamstring injuries is because, in a game, there might be a breaking ball there, and, with already being fatigued and you go for that sprint and, you're competing with someone else, you're probably going to be pushing it that bit more. And probably in training, you're not being exposed to that. And I suppose it's starting to come on a bit more now, where a lot more people are educating people about speed training like yourself, and about, the importance of it. And, we are trying to hammer that with our athletes as well. But, in a lot of team settings, there probably is that bit of neglect with regards to incorporating that, although it probably is improving, and especially with high level clubs and inter-county, they're definitely going to be doing it. But yeah, a lot of people are neglecting that, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why hamstring injuries are one of the most prevalent injuries, not just in GAA, but also like AFL, soccer. I think it makes up like 15-20% of all injuries, and been there myself plenty of times with them. And that was one of the I think it was the first injury I ever picked up. I think it was a McLaren game. We were playing down in Garvahi, and it was absolutely freezing. And I remember going down. I think we were a bit late. The bus was a bit late, and we were late to the game, and didn't do a warm up. We didn't warm up. I think we kicked the ball to each other a few times, and then we went into the game, and it was a pretty high intensity game. And yeah, I think I overstretched. Nothing to do with fatigue. I think the ball was the side of me, a breaking ball, and I think I tried to maybe keep it in play and overstretch with my leg. Don't know why I was going for the ball with my leg, but one of them ones anyway. Overstretched and hamstring went, and this was probably that must have been 9 years ago now, and got sent to a physio. And the funny thing is, we had an Ulster club minor championship 2 weeks after, so I was on a sweat to try and get back for that. And one of the clubs, the manager we were working with, the club sent me to a physio, a real old school physio, and I was given the usual, make sure you're icing it, plenty of stretching, and just stuff that you shouldn't be doing, or stuff that the opposite of what you need to be doing. And I feel like since then it's sort of spiraled, and it's one of them things where when you have a hamstring injury, you're more likely to do it again. And a lot of people struggle with that. They pull their hamstring once, and then it's you're more likely to do it again. You don't rehab it properly, the strength isn't there, and it's always sort of susceptible to re-injury. So I've had to do a lot of work there, and I still do do a lot of maintenance work there. But one of them things where you want to be exposing yourself, and I found something that helped me massively was, as much as the gym work does have a part to play, and you want to be loading that, you want to be getting the eccentric loading in with the likes of the Nordics, the single leg sliders, and also the likes of RDLs. But the biggest thing was, actually putting a big focus on running and sprinting.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for me. And it took a while for the penny to drop. It took plenty of physio trips and trips to different physios. But once I sort of flipped the switch from, focusing on pure rehab work and, locking myself in the gym, and then trying to go back and joining in team sessions, It was trying to build that up and get to the stage where you were pushing the intensity with, max velocity sprints and even things like hill sprints and stuff as well, incorporating them. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are lacking. And some of the athletes that I'm working with at the minute would come to me and, injuries are normal, and it's to be accepted that will happen. But their manager and their physio that they're working with is telling them, make sure you're icing that 3 times a day, make sure that you're doing plenty of stretching. And again, the literature shows that that's an absolute car crash. And one of the biggest things we were chatting about this the other day, that there's still that sort of protocol that people follow. As soon as you pick up an injury, whether that's an ankle sprain or whether that's quad strain, hamstring, people are straight on the ice it, when nowadays it shows that is actually counterproductive, and the inflammation that you get and what the ice will prevent is what you need to speed up the healing process. What I recommend and what I've been doing, and I found that this has helped with athletes and myself recovering from injuries in the past, is just get moving straight away and just try and, even if it is the next day after you pull your hamstring, just get out for a walk, even if it is nice and slow and you're dragging your heels, at least you're getting that movement back in. And then again, as soon as you can, get back to a leg jog and up to some high speed running, get doing it. But I feel like sprinting and working at that max velocity is neglected. And especially in rehab, hamstring rehab, it needs to be a big part of it, as opposed to, just at the very end thrown in a bit.
If your hamstrings can't tolerate sprinting at max velocity in a controlled environment, then when you go to do it in a game in an extremely chaotic environment, when stress is high, when you're trying to make decisions as you move, there's a high chance it's going to go. So people, like I see it all the time with athletes who continuously pull the hamstring or continuously do the same injury and continue to do the same rehab that they done the last time without changing anything. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you always got. So like, you're going to continue to pull the hamstring. You have to start to think outside the box. Think of, reasons why obviously that it potentially going to happen. But as you say, that the sprinting in a controlled environment with max velocity is absolutely key. And actually, the hamstring needs to be able to tolerate that load in a controlled environment, as I said, before you can ever thinking about doing it in a chaotic environment. So different drills, obviously you've got your max velocity, you've got your acceleration, you've got your wicket drills, you've got your bounds, your prime times. All these things are going to prep the hamstrings to tolerate load at higher velocities. You've got your change of direction drills. I've been actually working under a guy called Alan Murdoch recently, and his stuff's been unbelievable about just coming back a better athlete and actually in a much better place than you were before you ever got injured. That's the key, I feel, with rehab, and putting a focus on speed and change of direction and agility and making decisions when you're in that chaotic environment, as I was speaking about. So, and then obviously movement matters too. Like, so a lot of the David Gray stuff is what I would be doing.
Game changer.
Absolute game changer. Shout out to the GOAT.
Shout out to the GOAT. He changed my life. I've seen you were doing a bit of work with him too.
Yeah,
haven't you?
Very good.
I've been meaning to get down for a session, just to get a bit of a review. But I've seen you were doing a bit of work with him, and I've worked with him online and did a couple of programs, and life changing. I would try and get a lot of my clients doing similar things, because the stuff that he's teaching and the stuff that he's putting out and the programs that he has available are game changer. And that's what I always tell people, and that's something that I advise, get into a good spot, make sure the hamstrings, hips and calves are moving well and working well together, and then focus on improving body composition, focusing on sprinting 2-3 times a week and practicing that, sprinting with intent. And it's a no-brainer. You definitely will be able to get faster doing that and improve your output.
I've been probably struggling with the injury now for quite a while, and I've kind of had to delve into so many different areas, but there's so much value in a lot of different things. Obviously how you move is important, strength level is important, coordination is important, exposing yourself to speed is important, but also life stressors is a huge thing when it comes to picking up injuries. If you're someone who's always stressed, then there's probably a trend in picking up niggles and the stress that's going on in your life, whether it's from work, whether it's from relationships. So putting a focus on that side of things is important too. And I think might be where the solution lies for some people, especially those who have been picking up these sort of problems for years now.
Chronic injuries as well.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying there resonates completely. And I think it was when David Gray did mention that, and he was probably putting an emphasis on, just chilling out and getting your body into a relaxed state, and being able to keep or try and minimize stress in your daily life. And it's one of them things where if you're stressed, that's going to impact sleep quality, which then will impact your ability to recover too. And I think there is research out there to show that you're more susceptible to injury and muscle injury, especially if you're underslept. And that's as simple as Saturday night, you have a game on a Sunday, and you probably didn't get the sleep that you would have liked, or for some people you would have went out in the beer, or you were at the woman's and you didn't get home to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and your chance of you're susceptible to injury the next day there, you're more likely to pick up a niggle. And I've been there before, mate. I feel like that is one of the biggest factors. When you've had a poor sleep the night before, when you're probably under recovered, and then alongside, like you says, training loads maybe been a bit too high, pushing a bit too hard in the gym that week, and it just being generally under recovered. And in that stressed environment too, where there might be things going on personally, there might be things going on with your work, with your business, with your family life, and that obviously puts you into a dangerous place where you're, first of all, probably if you're not injured, you're more likely to pick one up, and then like you says, if you are rehabbing, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah. I feel like choosing your response to injury is huge as well. In that acute phase, a lot of people will get really stressed and think it's the end of the world when they pick up a niggle. And being honest, is probably the worst thing you could possibly do. And it's something that certain athletes of my own would come to me with. And my best advice would be to, you've got a choice now what you actually do with this. You can whine, you can become stressed, you can let it affect your sleep, which is going to affect how you recover. Or you can actually make a choice, this is the reality now. I've picked up an injury, so what can I actually do from here on that's going to actually improve me and going to put me in the best place to fully recover from this? Can you use it as an opportunity to learn, maybe an opportunity to take some downtime from sport, maybe an opportunity to reflect on past games, watch video clips, and then maybe learn a bit more about in the gym and what it actually takes to get stronger and return a better athlete than you were before. So mindset's a huge thing I find with injuries, and something I've learned a lot about over the last year. So you choose your response to unfavorable situations like that, and it goes a long way into the recovery that you actually get. And a lot of players will come back in a better place than they were before, and so it actually works out a bit of a positive. So it's something I'd try and put a big emphasis on when athletes come to me with issues.
Big time, like you're in control, and just try and focus on what you can do, and just control the controllables. And if you are someone that you can use that, like you said, to your advantage. If there's going to be a period of time where you aren't able to play, or you're out of action for 4 or 5 weeks, so you can maybe focus that bit more on a bit more upper body work and use it to your advantage. Or like you said, learn a bit more about the rehab process, learn a bit more about the gym, focus that bit more on nutrition, and like you said, even having that bit more downtime can help big time. But just on that one, and it's probably a topic that a lot of people struggle with, and I feel like it's pretty big in the GAA, probably amateur sport in general, that injuries are sort of looked down on as such, and it can be challenging. And I think it is pretty big in the GAA especially, and I've experienced this myself, and I'm sure a lot of athletes have as well. And even speaking with some of my clients and some of the athletes in the program, they probably are in the same boat where if you do pick up an injury, or you have been struggling, even people with even acute injuries or chronic, either once off, or someone that has picked up a decent few niggles, they're sort of demonized, and it's you sort of get a bad reaction to it, not just from coaches and managers, but even within the team setting as well. And it's it's one of them things where I don't know anyone who wants to pretend to be injured. And it's that, like, again, you grow up your whole life, all you know is football, and you're training 3-4 times a week, and then playing games, in that social environment, and you're pushing yourself, you're getting that output, and then next thing you're injured, and then that's taken away from you. And I feel like probably was something that I struggled. When one of the most challenging injuries that I had was hamstring tendonitis, and that was when I was working with David Gray, or working on his program. And I think I was out of action for like 8 or 9 months, and it was the year we got to the county final. So again, I was struggling. It was a struggle that not being able to be a part of that, and it was challenging. Mentally trying to deal with that, trying to not be able to obviously play and not be involved, and then again the recovery process. And even it's I say that a lot of people don't realize, and you probably people that have never picked up an injury, or people that are always in the green, they probably have never experienced that, and they don't understand what it's like. And yeah, I just feel like within the GA it's sort of demonized, and it can have a bad effect. And it's
I feel like sometimes a lot of players will have a bit of envy or something about someone, because like training isn't really usually a side where players enjoy in the GA. And when one lad is always turning up to training and not able to train, they nearly become a bit like, fuck him. Why the fuck does he get to just sit in the gym and do his rehab when I have to go out here and dog? But like being injured and not being involved and turning up the training, which I was doing all year, wasn't training whatsoever, was playing, but was still playing at the weekends through a lot of pain, was probably the toughest place I've ever been in when it comes to a GA setting. You feel out of the loop. You feel like you're just a dickhead taking someone's position on the team because you're not actually doing any sessions. But like being in pain constantly, not actually being physically capable to train, was an absolutely shy place to be, and I did not want to be there. So and to be honest, I probably would have been that guy 3-4 years ago who would have been given out about the guy who wasn't training because he was injured. But it's only when you end up in that bubble that you realize that no one actually wants to be injured. No, like it's a shit place to be, and I feel like it comes from a place of not really probably enjoying training that much, where is why people end up probably giving out, or because a player might be taking their position on a team and still playing. But yeah, I think it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. And on that as well, I feel like within the GA there is a lot of coaches and managers out there who probably a lot of them believe in injuries are a spoof, and it's probably a lot of old school managers, a lot of old school coaches who
never kicked the ball in their life.
not even that, but just probably are behind in terms of the science behind training, or the latest modalities with regards to rehab, recovery. But you see it in professional sports. You see it in the likes of the Premier League. There's players there who are that bit more susceptible to injury. The likes of De Bruyne. I think he's picked up. I think he's had 3 or 4 hamstring injuries in the past year, where it's kept him out of long periods of the season. And again, it's in every sport, but I feel like looking at it that way, Premier League footballers who have the best S&C, who have the best nutrition recovery protocols, who have every single meal cooked for them, and there's every bit of science and data behind everything they do, and their sleep and stuff obviously in a good place. And they still pick up injuries, and they still pick up long-term injuries, hamstrings, groins, calves, and ACLs and everything else in between. And again, even with the perfect rehab, even with getting a scan 24 hours after, and getting everything looked after, they might still pick up the same injury. They might still re-injure themselves after the rehab process. So it does happen, but I feel like within amateur sports and within GA especially, it's sort of demonized, and it can have its toll on a player. And me and you have both experienced that firsthand. And yeah, I feel like it's a difficult spot for people to be in, and yeah, it's challenging.
S&C has probably went to another level over the last 4, 5, 6 years, and that there I think creates its own problems when it comes to injuries. So loads are going to be higher if players are running faster. If they're running harder for longer, loads are going to be higher. So it kind of makes sense that these injuries are a bit more common over the last probably 8-9 years than they were 20 years ago, and that could be why certain coaches just can't seem to get their head around it.
They're also looking out for themselves as well, or they're trying, like, their neck's on the line at the end of the day, which is understandable. And of course they want their best 30 players out in the field every single session so they can get the most out of it. But yeah, there's a fine line between, again, trying to get players back, or trying to put that pressure on lads to sort of train even if they are in pain or if they're not fully recovered, but also it actually being detrimental to the team and the team's performance. Because at the end of the day, if someone picks up a knock because of training load not being managed, or then being under recovered, or maybe being pressured into training, or pressured into maybe pushing through a bit of pain, you're just fatigued, it's just a cramp, at the end of the day, when it comes to the game, whether that's championship or league game, they're not able to play, and that's detrimental on the team. So yeah, it's definitely having to just take that bit of a closer look. And yeah, like you said, the intensity in the game is getting more and more every year, and sort of competitive is getting higher, and the level and the bars being raised. And yeah, more and more S&C. So it's probably trying to find that right balance between, yes, doing enough to obviously get the stimulus required, but not so much that you're, being under recovered, picking up niggles. And like you said, sleep, nutrition, recovery all comes into play there. And it's probably something that is not looked at enough.
I think when it comes to the overall picture of S&C, the importance of it kind of increased as we've seen over the last probably 10 years. But I think it's starting to go the other way now, where yes, it's important, but it's not the most important thing. So it's about finding that balance as well, between what you're doing in the gym, what you're doing in the pitch, and what you're doing with your recovery, to give yourself the best opportunity.
I feel like, yeah, one of the good things that obviously coaches like you are doing at the minute, and it sort of is probably a problem within GA, is going away from the generic S&C plans, that is given to a set of 30 lads in a club team or a county team. And obviously working with athletes yourself, and people need that sort of tailored approach, as opposed to a one size fits all where they're given the same gym plan, the same running plan, and told away you go for 12 weeks. And I feel like that's a big problem within the GA and probably amateur sports in general, is that it's a bit too generic, and probably people need that bit more of a tailored approach. And for some people, they might need to add 5 kilo muscle, and for others, they are in a good spot and they probably just need to focus on that bit more conditioning, that bit more speed work, and then for others, they might be riddled with injury. So it's about maybe building that bit more of a foundation with them, more movement work, like you're hammering with clients, more plyometrics that you're big into. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that? So generic S&C plans and in club settings and inter-county settings getting given, program 12-week block, as opposed to, that sort of tailored approach, which you're obviously doing with your athletes.
Yeah, I think it can be detrimental, that side of things. You're given, a generic program to 30 lads, and you could have 5 lads in there who have plenty of muscle, have plenty of strength, but they need to start working on the more explosive type movements and the fast twitch muscle fibers inside the gym and outside the gym. They don't need as much slow, heavy strength work, and that's going to be detrimental to them the more you hammer that at them. And then obviously you've got lads who just simply need to put on size, so they're going to need that volume in the gym. It's just an essential. So going that wee bit more specific, seeing, as you said, there could be lads there who have enough muscle but they just move like complete shit in the gym. They move like shit on the pitch. So putting a bit of more emphasis on movement, on a bit of robustness. And then obviously you might have older lads who, have been doing gym work for the last 10 years. They don't need to be in the gym 3-4 days a week. Minimal effective dosage is going to be enough for them. Keeping them fresh, keeping them feeling good is the most important thing. So tailoring a wee bit to that is important. So in some situations, firing 2-3 programs at a squad is going to be better than doing absolutely nothing most of the time, provided that the volume and the intensity and the exercise choice isn't all over the place. But yeah, that having that wee tailored approach is going to go a long way, I feel, across the board in a squad to getting the best results.
Definitely. And sort of looking at, where do you need to improve? Where are you weakest? Where are you lacking with performance? If you're picking up a lot of injuries, or, if your conditioning isn't in a good place, or you're sort of lacking that bit of extra speed, and that's something that that could bring you on massively if you focus on that. But yeah, again, it's that sort of tailored approach, and that's a big part of what we do, which is massively beneficial to athletes. So obviously being an inter-county player yourself and playing at that sort of level from a young age, what advice would you give to someone who is playing at a decent level with their club but wants to, and this could be a young lad or it could be a lad who has been about the block for a bit, what advice would you give them to try and make that step to inter-county, and again to make their way into an inter-county setup and try and play at that bit of a higher level?
Yeah, there's a few things. I would have an opinion on this in terms of you have to want to be there first and foremost. I see a lot of lads go in and it's probably for outside opinions because they're going to look good when they're in the setup. We're a county player now, but you have to have that actual want and drive to play for your county, number one. And then after that, it's about having the physical attributes. Counties went to that level now where if you're lacking in conditioning, you're lacking in speed, unless you're really making up for that in terms of your skills or your knowledge of the game, you're gonna be falling seriously behind. So do the things that are within your control, as I always probably say. improve your speed, improve your body composition, a huge one. Put that extra bit of work into your nutrition, bring your conditioning to another level, and have that hunger to actually want to be there and be involved, and just go after it and see what happens. Explore where you can bring yourself to. You mightn't push on and actually play for your county. You mightn't become one of the better players, but at least you've actually got that peace of mind that you've went there, you've went into that setup, and you've pushed your own level. But again, it's nothing drastic that's gonna separate a club player from a county player. There's so many club players out there who are operating at the level of a county player, but they're just not involved in the setup. So the key would be just controlling those things in terms of how you think about what's your identity. Are you someone who goes in the piss every weekend, or are you someone who puts that bit of effort into their physical attributes? So that's probably the main things. What you can control, and what you control is your nutrition, your sleep, your who you're working with in terms of the physical side of things, your mindset, and then just going for it, to be honest. And if you do get that call, you're in a much better place to push on.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said there, even if you don't, at least you are, if you set the bar that high, even if you don't get there, you're still in a much better position than where you first started. And like you said, you'll not have them regrets of, I could have done more, or I've left things on the table that could have easily brought me forward. Yeah, I think that's quality.
So I suppose just to relate it back to the physical side of things, a lot of players are in the position where they need to put on a bit of size, but a lot of them have a fear of it impacting their performance levels on the pitch. So I suppose what advice would you give players who are needing to put on that bit of size but don't want to take away from their actual performance on the pitch?
Yeah, first thing I'd say is it definitely can be done. And, I have experience doing that myself, and then, working with other athletes. And then, you look at it, they're county players, a lot of them are in very good shape. They have good physiques, they have a good bit of muscle, but they can still move and they can still perform. So first thing I would say is try and plan out your training, over a block of months, and periodize it. So again, you're not going to be in a sort of muscle building phase all season. So planning that out, picking and choosing times of the season. So for example, now the off season is a great time to do that, to again focus on that quality, as in adding muscle, and how you go about doing it. And a couple of things I recommend you do is, first of all, focus on adding weight slowly. So building muscle at a rate that, again, you're not going to add too much excess body fat. So a general rule of thumb, I like to go with, maybe around a pound a week maximum. And for others, that might look like even a half a pound a week. And generally that's a good marker to aim for, and will minimize sort of fat gain. Now, again, there is going to be a point where, fat gain is inevitable. And that's where, periodize your training into different phases, periodizing your nutrition, where, you can eventually then tidy things up and get rid of the excess body fat that you add. But yeah, I think focus on adding muscle slowly, or adding weight slowly. And then the second thing would be making sure that you are still incorporating, sprint work, and making sure that you have that bit of conditioning work in as well. So even as much as sprinting once a week would probably be enough to maintain your speed qualities, or if not even develop them slightly. And then again, depending on the phase of training, depending on the time of the year and what other sort of training loads you have on at the minute, then, even things like including one tempo session, or even an off-feet conditioning session to keep you ticking over, to keep that sort of base level. But I think there's always a time and place to sort of improve your conditioning, and maybe an off season, and an off season is probably the perfect time to focus on improving your speed, and then again adding that bit of muscle. The last thing I think is making sure recovery and sleep is dialed in. So again, with you being in that sort of hypertrophy phase, and sort of that will add stress to the body, so making sure sleep, recovery, stress management is all dialed in, and as well, especially if you're trying to progress the speed work alongside that, or progress the conditioning work, or you're doing a decent bit of work in the pitch, then making sure that's dialed in. Just make sure you're not picking up niggles, make sure that you're not under recovering, and so you can actually progress in the gym and on the field at the same time.
It was good to get an insight, I suppose, from another coach, and I hope there's a lot of value in that. I think there is, to be honest. I think there's a lot of topics there we went through that mightn't have been spoke about before. I know I've hashed a lot of shite on different podcasts, but I don't think I've went into that sort of detail in some of those topics. So it's been enjoyable. And another couple of weeks left in Bali, and then it's back to the grind.
Yeah, we'll definitely get another one done
Yeah.
before we head. But yeah, a lot of topics there we probably went into a lot of detail with. So if anyone isn't 100% clear or needs a bit more information, just give us a shout and we can try and give you it in a bit more layman's terms or just give you a bit more detail on it. But yeah, it was a good chat. Plenty of value there, hopefully, for lads, especially with nutrition, with hydration protocols, even things that people probably know or they know that they should be doing certain things, but just hopefully get that bit of reassurance that it is beneficial and that it will bring them on that bit more, and then people can have a solid off season.
Right, Liam.
Nice one, good yarn.
Chat
Until
to
the
you.
next one.